do you keep sharp in your daily routines? Do you measure weekly? I say this. I'm a person who is very flexible in the things that I do, but how do I keep sharp is I write down a lot of stuff, JT. I make sure that all the things that I want to get done on a typical day, I write it down. And I try to do it the night before. And one of the things that's very important as well, too, is to make sure that you exercise, man. Go out for a walk. Find some time to yourself to keep in your own thoughts. And to, whether it's 30 minutes or 20 minutes, just find some time to yourself to make sure that you can mentally deload and to get inside your own thoughts. That's how I do it. That's what works for me. Going for walks and also working out. And I think I mentioned this to you guys that I tore my Achilles. I tore my Achilles in June. And I've just gotten back to the gym, right? So my wife and my kids were gone for the last 2 weeks. And I've been in the gym nonstop. So I lost 2 pounds, eating 1 meal a day, going on my walks and so forth. And I'm feeling good. But that's how I stay sharp, guys. That's how I stay sharp. And however you want to call sharp. I don't know if it's always sharp. Blake Lee, good morning. Antoine, thank you for all your valuable info. I'm going to WGU in January for MIS. I'm looking for a help desk job now to gain some experience. Any advice? Should I wait or not? No, don't wait, Blake Lee. Go ahead and start looking for help desk roles, because a lot of times what you're going to do is you're going to see that they're going to be looking for 1 or 2 years of experience. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you are working towards doing your labs. Kev IT Support is a person that you should be following, Blake Lee. He is a fantastic content creator, and he's on his channel often, and he helps people to get into help desk and service desk positions. So he has a YouTube channel that talks about creating labs so that you can understand Windows and so forth. And I would suggest that you go and follow him, and also to create your own labs to get that experience, because one of the things is they're going to ask you for 1 or 2 years of experience. If you have labs and you can show that you've done the work before in your own house and you're self-taught without you being at WGU, you can be in school while working at the same time, earning some money. So don't wait, Blakely. I suggest you not to wait, sir. 96 Chill says, thank you for the content. I'm looking to switch paths, and I'm constantly looking at your videos for info. I appreciate you, 96 Till. I appreciate you. I'm glad that we can provide some content that's relevant for you and is helpful for you as well, too. Trial and error with new equipment. I'm getting ash all over my stuff. But let me get to the second point, guys. So the first point, again, was tooting your own horn isn't just for performance reviews. Tooting your own horn is important. It's very important. And if you want to climb the corporate ladder, it gives you an opportunity to share what your latest and greatest accomplishments are. And you have to be careful with it. Don't brag, but you want to make sure that you're getting that information to the right people, and you want to make sure it's delivered at the right time. So that's important. Another thing that I wanted to talk about this morning is, here's the thing. You are only as good as your last movie. And I'm going to say it like this. You're only as good as your last movie, guys. You're only as good as your last movie, so keep your brags fresh. I have a person that went to Harvard that works for the company that we're in, and he talks about that. And he's been out of Harvard for a good 20 years now, right? And he talks about Harvard. And he's had some success in his career, but he talks about that all the time. And to where people really start to call him Harvard now, because that's what he talks about all the time. So you want to make sure that you make the brags or your accomplishments, you have to make sure that it is the latest and greatest. Okay? Just because you went to Harvard 20 years ago, you don't want that to be your last and your greatest accomplishment, because there's other things that you've done since then that you should be happy about. So make sure that you are talking about your latest and greatest movie. Nobody wants to hear about that movie that was created 20 years ago. Nobody wants to hear about that movie that was created 15 years ago. So keep your brags, keep it fresh. And you are only as good as your latest and greatest accomplishments. That's how it works. And think about from sports stars, right? A running back can have an MVP year. Well, he can be cut the next year because he isn't performing on a team. That's what happens. So you're as as good as your last movie. So make sure that you're continuing to create good movies. Same thing as being a content creator as well too. You have to constantly produce. And the stories that you want to produce are the things of your latest and greatest accomplishments. Your latest and greatest accomplishments, not those accomplishments that you've done 20 years ago. You hear about the people who you guys probably know these guys who you go and talk to, and all they talk about is 20 years ago. Oh man, I remember that 20 years ago. No, we'll talk about your latest and greatest accomplishments. What is it that you most recently accomplished, guys? You know, stop talking about the past when you was somebody who was good in your career. Talk about somebody. Talk about your successes now. That's what you should be talking about. It always should be something on the near future. So make sure that you're not talking about that 20-year-old movie when you're talking to people about your latest and greatest, because you're only as good as that. And you don't want people to constantly remember you by being Mr. Harvard, being that person who has a 20-year-old movie and nothing else in today's life to talk about. So that's another point that I wanted to make sure that you guys understood as well too, as part of this coffee talk and soft skills, is you're only as good as your last movie. So keep your brags fresh. Keep them fresh. That's another good reason for you to write them down, and to write them down just about weekly. At the latest, at a minimum monthly, right? So you keep your brags fresh, guys. I closed a contract last week, so of course that goes down on my brag list because it was for $300,000. So, anybody comes towards me asking me, what have I accomplished most recently? Well, last week I closed a $300,000 contract. I have a renewal that's done. That is going to be completed by October 31st. That's over 3.6 million. So that's going to be another talking point for me. I'm going to toot my own horn when I get that thing closed, and that's going to be something that I write down on my list so that people know. And when I talk to somebody, my CEO calls and he says, Antoine, what's going on? How are you doing? Well, I just closed this contract for 3.6 million. It was a renewal. It's 5-year terms. Oh man, that's wonderful, right? That's how you do it. That's how you do it, and so forth, right? Let's get in here. Let me get back to the chats.